Why Harvard students don't rely on motivation and still win. Most people think success comes from motivation. Feeling inspired, feeling ready, feeling driven. Harvard students don't wake up motivated every day. They don't feel like studying. They don't feel like grinding. And yet, they still outperform you. Why? Because they don't rely on motivation. They replaced it with something far more dangerous: systems. I'm about to show you exactly what they use instead. And by the end of this, you'll never depend on motivation again. Chapter 1: Motivation is a scam. You think motivation is fuel. It's not. It's a mood. And moods are unstable. You wake up tired. Motivation gone. You get distracted. Motivation gone. You fail once. Motivation disappears instantly. Psychologists have known this for decades. Motivation fluctuates based on dopamine. Sleep, food, stress, environment, all of it affects your drive. So if your entire productivity depends on motivation, you've built your life on quicksand. Harvard students understand this early. They don't ask, "How do I feel today?" They ask, "What does the system say I should do?" That's a completely different game. Most people wait until they feel ready. Elite students act regardless. Cal Newport calls this identity-based execution. You don't wait to feel like studying. You become the type of person who studies. Big difference. But here's the problem, though. Just knowing motivation is unreliable doesn't fix anything. You still wake up tired. You still procrastinate. So what replaces motivation? Chapter 2: Environment beats willpower. Most people think discipline is internal. Wrong. Discipline is engineered. Look at your environment right now. Phone next to you. Tabs open, notifications buzzing, and you're wondering why you can't focus? The University of California found that after one distraction, it takes 23 minutes to refocus. 23 minutes. You get distracted every 5 minutes. Do the math. You never actually start. Harvard students don't fight distractions. They remove them. Libraries with strict silence. Dedicated study spaces. Phone in another room. They don't rely on willpower. They eliminate the need for it. Most people try to be stronger. Elite students make the task easier. James Clear explains this with habit design. Make bad habits hard. Make good habits easy. Average person, studies on bed, phone nearby, TV on. Harvard student, fixed desk, no phone, preset materials. Same brain, different outcome. But here's the thing though. Even in a perfect environment, you can still procrastinate. You sit there, you stare at the page. You do nothing. Why? Because the real problem isn't distraction. It's resistance. Chapter 3. They reduce friction to 0. Starting is the hardest part. Always. You don't hate studying. You hate starting. Harvard students understand this. So they make starting stupidly easy. Instead of study for 3 hours, they use entry points. Open the book, read 1 page, answer 1 question. That's it. Sounds useless. It's not. Behavioral scientists call this the activation energy principle. Every task has a starting cost. Lower the cost, increase the action. Once you start, momentum takes over. Newton's law applies to your brain too. Objects in motion stay in motion. Objects at rest scroll TikTok. Average person sets massive goals, gets overwhelmed, quits. Elite student sets tiny triggers. Starts instantly, builds momentum. But here's the problem though. Starting is easy. Finishing consistently, that's where most people collapse. Because motivation fades, energy drops. So what keeps them going? Chapter 4: Systems create automatic behavior. Harvard students don't decide what to do every day. That's the key. Decision-making is exhausting. It's called decision fatigue. The more choices you make, the worse your decisions get. By evening, your brain is done. That's why you procrastinate at night. Not because you're lazy, because you're depleted. So elite students remove decisions. Fixed study hours, pre-planned schedules, repeatable routines, same time. Same place, same action, every day. No thinking required. Psychologist Wendy Wood found that over 40% of daily actions are habits. Not decisions, habits. That means almost half your life runs automatically. So the question is, are your habits working for you or against you? Average person relies on motivation to decide. Elite student relies on systems to execute. Motivation asks, do I feel like it? System says, it's 4 p.m. Sit down, no debate, no emotion, just execution. But here's the thing though. Even with systems, people still fail. They burn out, they quit, they lose consistency. Why? Because they misunderstand effort. Chapter 5. They manage energy, not time. Most people think productivity is about time. Wrong. It's about energy. You can sit for 5 hours and learn nothing, or 1 hour and absorb everything. Harvard students optimize energy, not hours. They study when their brain is sharp. Morning for deep work, afternoon for lighter tasks. They don't force heavy thinking when exhausted. That's stupidity. Research shows your cognitive performance fluctuates throughout the day. Peak, dip, recovery. Elite students align work with these cycles. Average people ignore them. They try to grind through fatigue. That's why you feel stuck. Not because you're dumb, because you're misaligned. But it gets deeper. They also use strategic breaks. Not random scrolling, actual recovery, walks, short naps, no screens. Your brain isn't built for constant focus. It needs cycles. Stress to recovery to growth, same as muscles. But here's the problem, though. Even if you manage energy perfectly, you can still forget everything. And then all your effort is wasted. Chapter 6. They train memory, not just effort. Most people study hard and forget everything in a week. Why? Because they use passive review. Reading, highlighting, rereading feels productive. It's not. It's the illusion of competence. Harvard students don't just study. They train retrieval, active recall. Close the book, test yourself, struggle to remember. That struggle is the learning. Robert Bjork calls this desirable difficulty. The harder it feels, the stronger the memory. Then they layer spaced repetition. Review right before forgetting. Not too early, not too late. Perfect timing. This locks information into long-term memory. Hermann Ebbinghaus proved this over a century ago. The forgetting curve is brutal. Unless you interrupt it, average student crams, forgets. Elite student spaces, remembers. Same effort, different system. But here's the thing, though. Even if you remember everything, there's still one problem. You might still be learning slowly, and in a competitive environment like Harvard, slow equals losing. Chapter 7. They focus on leverage, not effort. Most people try to do more. More hours, more notes, more content, wrong strategy. Harvard students focus on high-leverage actions, the 20% that drives 80% of results. They don't read everything. They identify what matters. Core concepts, exam patterns, professor priorities. They study smarter, not harder. This is the Pareto principle. Used everywhere. Business, investing, learning. Find the critical few. Ignore the trivial many. Average student tries to learn everything. Gets overwhelmed. Elite student targets what moves the needle, gets results faster. But here's the final truth. None of this works if you're still addicted to motivation. Because motivation makes you inconsistent. And inconsistency kills everything. So let's recap. Motivation is unstable. Environment shapes behavior. Friction kills action. Systems automate success. Energy beats time. Memory beats effort. Leverage beats volume. This is how Harvard students win. Not because they're smarter, because they don't rely on feelings. They rely on systems. But here's the problem, though. Most people hear this and do nothing. They go back to waiting for motivation, scrolling, delaying, hoping, and nothing changes. That's why I made this next video breaking down the exact system to rewire your brain for deep focus and eliminate procrastination completely. Watch it next. It might be the difference between staying average and becoming dangerous.